Janae Wilson, the president and director counsel of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. She joins us today from a rainy and windy Selma, Alabama, the site of the 1965 Bloody Sunday March, a defining moment in the civil rights movement. Janae, thank you so much for being here. I just want to get started with you. Talk to me about the significance of today with respect to everything else that is going on contextually around where our government is right now.
You know, Charles, every year we come to Selma to pay homage to the foot soldiers who delivered the multiracial democracy to us a mere 60 years ago. Their march, the brutality that they suffered at the hands of the state, ultimately led to the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which I call the birth certificate of this democracy. And we are here today at a moment when our democracy is in crisis. Our democracy is under threat, and we are hurtling towards a constitutional crisis, as you mentioned. But what we do every year when we come is to get renewed strength. We refuel. This is not just a reenactment of a march. It is a drill, because we know that in this moment, it's not only the power of the courts, it's the power of the people that will be the force to counter what we're seeing as a quick descent towards authoritarianism and fascism.
You know, you use the word a drill in the sense that this is not something that we can play with in this moment. Can you just underscore for viewers how significant it is if this administration forgoes the authority of the courts and basically says, we're not going to do what we have been ordered to do, what that does to the legitimacy of not just the judiciary, but overall American democracy?
Yeah, well, we're in uncharted waters. So we know that we have dealt with a federal government that has arrayed its resources against the American public and especially black people before. But this is different. This is in the face of decades of progress and evolving standards about democracy and respect for the rule of law. We now have a regime that is installed and that has taken liberties that don't exist, that has abused executive power, and that is threatening to disobey court orders potentially. And if that should happen, it really will be in the hands of the Supreme Court to order our law enforcement agencies to do what is necessary and required to rein in this abuse of authority. And that means treating this government like any other individual or entity that is not above the law. That may require the intervention of U.S. attorneys, of the Department of Justice. We know that those are controlled right now by this administration. But unlike the president, those entities and those individuals do not have immunity. So people will be forced to make a choice about their own liberty, their own freedom, their own threat of prosecution and conviction and prison time, or protecting a wannabe dictator and someone who is willing to defy law because they feel that they're shielded by immunity. And let me say this, the Supreme Court also has the ability to reverse its precedent if it realizes that it did the wrong thing by extending the immunity that it did to the president. So it's important that we remember there are ways to reverse course here, and that may ultimately be necessary.
Janae, I want to ask you about an executive order that the president issued on Thursday that kind of flew under the radar for a lot of people. It essentially seeks to limit challenges legally to the president's actions by requiring that plaintiffs pay monetary security payments if an injunction is issued. This relies on a very, very remote and little-known federal law. Can you talk a little bit more about this and its significance?
Sure. So, again, Mr. Trump is attempting to legislate from the White House desk, which he has absolutely no power and authority to do. So I do not believe that this executive order will stand, as so many of his executive orders have not. I believe it will be quickly enjoined and ultimately struck down, because we have federal rules of civil procedure that go through a vetting process, that receive comments, that are considered by jurists, not by a president who has no law degree, who has no expertise, and who is clearly trying to manipulate the rules to shield himself and his administration from accountability. You can see right through it. There's no veil, there's no mask. It is an intentional end run around the legislative process and the rulemaking process. And so, again, we will rely on our courts, officers of the courts, the judiciary that has an interest in ensuring that we have separation of powers and three strong, formidable branches of government. And it's going to be up to the Supreme Court ultimately to save itself and its own authority by pushing back on this overreach and this abuse of executive authority.
Janae, my friend, the symbolism of you as a civil rights attorney holding the line in the midst of wind and rain in a storm in Selma on Bloody Sunday is not lost on me. And lightning. Thank you so much for all that you do and continue to do at the LDF. That is Janae Nelson, ladies and gentlemen.